Good evening, children. Today we will learn second poem of our syllabus. If I find a fairy. Come, let's recite the poem now. If I find a fairy. If I find a fairy, I'll keep her for a pet. I'll give her all the chocolates and all the sweets I get. I'll keep her in my pocket, as warm can be. And perhaps if you come calling, I'll let you peep and see. Now, let us understand what is a fairy. What's a fairy, children? Fairy is a small imaginary being of human form that has magical powers, especially a female one. Okay. Means it's a doll kind of a thing which has human shape, and also fairy has a pair of wings. So fairy will have wings. It will have some magical powers in it. What you ask for, it will give it to you. But you all should know that it is purely a imaginary thing. Now, in this poem, there is a little girl who is imagining about a fairy and saying us that if she finds a fairy, what she is going to do. So the little girl says, if I find a fairy, I'll keep her for a pet. So you all know what is a pet. We will have pet dogs, pet cats, kittens, how it is shown there in the picture. So in this way, the little girl want to keep her fairy as her pet. So what she says, if I find a fairy, I'll keep her for a pet. I'll give her all the chocolates and all the sweets I get. So she says that if she finds a fairy, she is going to keep her fairy as a pet, and she is going to give all her chocolates and all the sweets she get to the fairy. Now let us see what the little girl is going to do with the fairy in the second stanza of the poem. She says, I'll keep her in my pocket, as warm can be. That means if she gets a fairy, the little girl will keep the fairy in her pocket so that the fairy will be warm. Warm as she is. Means she wants to keep the fairy warm as how she keeps herself warm. And she says, and perhaps if you come calling, I'll let you peep and see. Means she is saying that if you come calling to see what the fairy is doing in her pocket, she will let you peep and see the fairy in her pocket. So now in this picture, children, you can see that there is a little girl who is imagining about a little fairy, that if she gets a fairy, what she is going to do. She is collecting all the chocolates and sweets, and she wants to give those chocolates and sweets to the fairy. And she wants to keep the fairy as her pet in her pocket warmly, as how she keeps herself warm. And she says that if at all you come calling to see the fairy, she will allow you to peep and see the fairy from inside her pocket. So I hope, children, you have understood the poem, If I Find a Fairy. I want you all to recite the poem. So that's all for today. Let me catch you all in the next video. Thank you, children.